Oh. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narayana. Hari Om and good evening from Minneapolis. Earlier this week, we had completed our 5th annual Devi retreat. This is a retreat just for Devis, just for women who are 21 and older. And part of this retreat is athletics. So we have this mandatory time where people play freeze tag and people play Go and people play boss bodyguard. And as this was beginning, I was observing all of the Devis, that some Devis were over there and some Devis were over there and some didn't want to run and some didn't want to sweat and some were wearing saris, and there was a lot of apprehension. There was a lot of separation. But then as the games went on, you should have seen how these Devis were cheering for each other. You should have seen these Devis trash talk the other Devis. All of that separation went away all of a sudden. They were a unit amongst that city, or all of the Devis together. And we see this happen in other ways. In an experience of trauma, how someone will develop this immense strength to move an object or to heal. I had heard that this terminology of a marathon was from, I made a note of this, Phaedippides. I'm pretending like I know how to pronounce his name. I had heard that when the Greeks beat the Persians, that he ran 26 miles to tell the people in Athens that they had won. I had heard another story that the Persians were coming to Athens, so he ran over there. But for someone to just run like that spontaneously, that transcending of one's body is very real. What's fascinating about that whole story is that he died when he reached Athens after he ran that 26 miles. When you go to sleep, you can have so many responsibilities at school, at work, with family, but when you're so sleepy and then you fall asleep, that transcending of the mind and the intellect and the ego happens too. We are constantly moving away from separation and experiencing oneness. And the catalyst to that is purpose. This is where Bhagavan Krishna says, Sutre manigana iva. We are all pearls that are connected by a string. Now think, why did Bhagavan Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita use pearls and not rubies? Why not diamonds? And the reason he chose pearls is because you can't see through a pearl. You can't see that thread that's connecting all of those pearls on a necklace. When we can't see our purpose, we will always feel separate. You and I, yours and mine. But through our study of Atma Bodha, through our study of Ananda Bodha, we have a fuller understanding of oneness, not a commercial understanding, a real understanding of oneness. Last week, we studied Shloka 8, which began discussing creation. And if you had a chance to read through Pujya Swami Chinmayananda's writing, one very powerful statement he shares is, reconversion alone is creation. Reconversion alone is creation. In science, we would say energy is not created nor destroyed. It just keeps changing forms and names. That's what creation is. And so, we are all different, but equal. So there's a form and name here, and a form and name here, and a form and name here. We're all different, yet we're all equal. We're all energy, if you look at it from a science perspective. We're saying we are all existence awareness. And the tactile thought for Shloka 8 was, what gives value to valuables? What gives value to an iPhone? What gives value to a credit card? What gives value to a body? It is that existence awareness. Then we took up Shloka 9. And in Shloka 9, Acharya Shankara is sharing that we've only experienced existence awareness. We've only experienced God. From our first breath to our last breath, we are only experiencing God. But you have to know that to benefit by that. If you don't know that, you can't benefit by it. That's why this word Bodha is so important. By knowing, we start to benefit. And the tactile thought for Shloka 9 was that we're all related. If we have the knowledge that we're all related, how we treat each other would be different, no? It was beautiful when I walked into this business school. Right now they're having a LGBTQIA reunion. So past alumni, present students, where they get together and they support each other, they mentor each other, they hang out with each other. What a progressive idea. I know you're all thinking, Minneapolis, really? As we slowly shift to Shloka 10, we now have 8 different areas of our lives that we should begin to look at differently. In Shloka 2, every time you see a fire, you shouldn't just see the fire, you should think of how fire is needed for cooking. In Shloka 3, it was a dark room or darkness. In Shloka 4, it was about clouds. When you see clouds, that the sun is still there. 2, 3, 4. In Shloka 5 was when you see a pool with algae, or you see Lake Erie with algae. that algae can go away, and that clean water can stay. And Shloka 6 was about a dream. You wake up from a dream, and you automatically resume your wakefulness. In Shloka 7 was about the next time you see a shell, that's a shell there, and not a projection of silver or projection of a mermaid or whatever else could be in that shell. Then in Shloka 8 was about bubbles. The next time you see bubbles, don't just think about bubbles. And in Shloka 9 was about jewelry. So there's a lot of people of Indian origin in this class. So next time you see jewelry, you should go straight to, yes, there's many ornaments, but the substratum for those ornaments is the same. Everyone's with me? So 8 different normal aspects of our living. Acharya Shankara is making more poetic, is making more meaningful for us. We take up Shloka 10. Please repeat after me. Yatha kasho hrishikeshaha Yatha kasho hrishikeshaha Nanopadi gato vibhuhu Nanopadi gato vibhuhu Tadbhedat bhinnavad bhati Tannashe kevalo bhavet. Good chanting. Together. Yatha kasho hrishikeshaha nanopadi gato vibhuhu tadbhedad binnavad bhati tannashe kevalo bhavet. Acharya Shankara shares here, Yatha, as if, or he's comparing, Akasha, which means the sky, with Hrishikeshaha, that is with God, that is with infinity. Okay, we'll go quarter by quarter. How many of you have been on a cruise ship before for a longer cruise? Never. Wow. Sorry, in class, how many of you have been on a cruise before? Well, not too many people. How many of you have never been on an airplane before? Never been on an airplane. I really need to see if there's anyone. Okay. If you go on a cruise ship, a place where people like to spend a lot of time is in the front of the ship and the back of the ship. Why? Because it's actually less stable in the front or back. It's because when you look out at the horizon, there's very little shapes. So there's very little limitations. You almost feel like that water is infinite. When you're on a plane and you're looking outside of a window and you don't see the wing, there's really just that window screen. If you can really get into that and put your hands like this, there are no shapes, so there's no limitations, as if there is infinity. Here, Acharya Shankara is sharing space is like infinity. Okay? Nana upadi gato vibhuhu. And on this space, nana upadi, there's lots and lots and lots of conditionings. Lots of equipments. Gataha means they have come to this space, just like vibhuhu. Just like on God, just like on infinity. So thinking about this some more. We now have over 30 cities, different cities, that are part of our Atma Bodha course. So now the space in Kentucky, is that space different than the space in Ohio? Is the space in Maryland different than the space in Virginia? When I traveled from Canada to America today, I was thinking, if you go through the elements, who said that this is Canadian Earth and this is American Earth? If you go to international waters, it's even harder to decipher this is China's part of the water and this is India's part of the water. If you go to fire, if you go to the sun, this is Caribbean sunlight and this is Mexican sunlight. If you go to air, if you go to space, how do you make such distinctions? And the traditional example is you have the pot space and you have the out of pot space. All of these are conditionings on space or water, but are those conditionings real? Is space and water actually conditioned? In the third quarter, tad bheda binnavad bhati. All of these conditionings, they are what make us feel like there's separation, like there are X objects and Y objects, that there are good people and there's bad people. So you have that which is one, you put conditionings on top of that, and then believe that those conditionings are real and separation is real. Is it so real? Our labels limit us, isn't it? You think about how many labels you have on you. Are you stronger or weaker because of those labels? I get to interact with a lot of youth. So a lot of high school boys that I meet, they're insecure, so they talk too much. They overcompensate by thinking they're the fastest runners and they're the best looking people, and the swag with which they dress and the way they walk, isn't it? Like this is the label they've assumed, and it just makes them weaker. Sheila and I were discussing. Sheila has a lot of deep questions about The Walking Dead. And she says, how did they bathe in this show? And she was saying yesterday that, they scour different people's homes and businesses. And how come the girls don't take the makeup and wear makeup? Now, even with makeup, I picked on boys, so I'm picking on girls too. We have this label that we need makeup to feel beautiful. But an infant doesn't wear makeup. A young girl doesn't wear makeup. These labels limit us, isn't it? And who put these labels on us? We've accepted those labels. When I moved to the ashram in 2005, before I left, a good friend of mine gave me a backpack. He thought, because he and I had traveled to Bharat together, he thought in the Vedanta course we'd be traveling around Bharat, visiting different cities and different ashrams. So I took this to Bharat, and I remember it was the first year, the first Deepavali, and someone came into my room. I was just cleaning my room. It was the middle of the day, and he started talking to me. This is another brahmachari, and he was speaking to me in a very matter-of-fact, I know more than you kind of matter. And he essentially said that, everyone here thinks you're this rich kid from Canada. And I was thinking to myself, nobody here knows me. And then he said, you have this backpack and you wear these sandals. That backpack, it's from Mountain Equipment Co-op. I don't even know what that company is. But that's what they're looking at. These sandals I got for $12 at Walmart. But that was the label that they had put on me. That, you're a Canadian. You shouldn't be here studying at the ashram. You should be whatever Canadians do. And there was that label. And I didn't put that label on me, but I was still limited by it, correct? And through our study of Vedanta, then everyone got to know each other better, and they realized how I have such low standards with materials that I went the other way. How come you don't have standards with backpacks and sandals and so on? Acharya Shankara finishes this thought by saying, Tad nashe. Tad, he's referring to these conditionings. Nashe, when these labels are broken, kevalaha bhavet. What remains is oneness. What remains is what was always there. In Sanskrit, the word for a letter is Akshara. Akshara means alphabet. If you take your Atma Bodha book, Atma Bodha is a book. This book can be divided into shlokas. The shlokas can be divided into pages, into paragraphs, into sentences, into words, into letters, but can you go deeper than that? The foundation is letters. From letters, you can go into many sorts of conditionings, but you can't go to a more fundamental level than letters. So we call that akshara, that which is indestructible. And this sounds very much like another word called akshata. What does akshata mean? Rice, essentially. When someone important comes to your home, traditionally, we give them a bowl of rice, of akshata, small bowl, not to eat. But we say, you take that akshata and you sprinkle it on me. You sprinkle it on my home. Because whatever wealth there may be in the world, whether it's a water bottle or a Wi-Fi connection or social security, but finally, food is the most fundamental wealth, correct? You can take Wi-Fi away and still live. You take food away, you stop living. So that akshata symbolizes fundamental blessings. Please bless me in the most simple and needed way. And that's what Acharya Shankara is sharing here, is that all of these conditionings are as if, and to go to deeper aspects of the world around you, go into yourself more deeply. Here is your sutra. In the past, I've been giving you tactile thoughts, but whenever I use the word tactile, it's something you should do. So recently someone said you should give us sutras, like a quote that you can remember easily, a proverb. A proverb like, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? When you think of that, you start to think about fear. So I understand Atma Bodha is quite subtle. So for each shloka, instead of giving you a tactile thought, I'm going to give you a sutra. This is going to be from 1 to 5 simple English words that if you can remember this sutra, you will remember what the message of this shloka is. And if you remember, you can practice, right? But if you can't remember, you can't practice. So here is the sutra for shloka 10. Colors are colorless. Colors are colorless. When you see colors, what is the source of all colors? White light, isn't it? Or no, even white is the wrong terminology, but I'll say white light. Then you put it in a prism and it turns into roigbv. That's how we study it in the West. But in India, they study vibgyor. It's so fascinating how in the East they study it that way, in the West we study it this way. Even that LGBTQIA flag, beneath that rainbow is that whiteness. And I was thinking lots about this today. What color does Mother Parvati wear? Red. What color does Mother Lakshmi wear? Pink. And what color does Mother Saraswati wear? See how the color is going away. You have pure red, you have red white, you have white, and on Vijaya Dashami you should be even beyond that white. How amazing. It's not by accident that they chose these colors. I'm assigning green to myself and you become purple. There's such depth to all of this. Okay? So colors are colorless. These colors are just conditionings, but they don't affect that white light, that no light. Similar thought in Shloka 11. Before we get into this, I wanted to tell you a most awesome phrase from the Upanishad. This is from Chandogya Upanishad. The Rishi in this Upanishad is a father and the Shishya is a son. For all of the younger people in our Atma Bodha course, are you ready to accept your parents as your Sadguru? We don't even want to learn driving from our parents, correct? Leave alone learning Advaita Vedanta. But it's just a very beautiful culture about how parents, they gave their kids this knowledge. And those kids knew that their parents were knowledgeable. I'm not just saying the kids are useless anymore. I'm saying the parents are also useless. See how fair I am in in assigning value to everyone. So the Rishi tells his Shishya, the father to the son, Sadeva Somya idam agra asit. And opening this up, he says, Sat eva idam agre asit. Sat eva, existence alone, idam, was here in the beginning. In the beginning there was existence, and from existence came all else. Because his son is focusing on all of the differences and not on the equality. Please repeat after me. Nanopadi Vashadeva Jati Varna Shramadayaha Atman Yaropitastoye Rasavarnadi Bhedavat. Together. Nanopadi Vashadeva Jati Varna Shramadayaha Atman Yaropitastoye Rasavarnadi Bhedavat. Similar terminology in the first quarter. Nana Upadi Vashadeva. all of these conditionings, all of these labels, and further thoughts will be explained, but I'll pick up on a word from the previous shloka that will make this first line more clear. What does Hrishikeshaha mean? Whose name is Hrishikeshaha? Bhagwan Krishna. Keshaha means hair. Hrishikeshaha means the one who has curly hair. And not just curly hair that's just free like this, curly hair that's tied tightly, close to the body. Like a jata, like dreadlocks. Okay? Dreadlocks copied from this culture. Because when they were fighting, they're open fields, it's hot, it's windy, so the hair keeps getting in your face. So what do? You just tie it up. Sheila is not happy with the condition of my hair at all. So every time she sees me, she ties it up in a bun. I don't really know what she does, but it's really comfortable when she just ties it up and puts it up here. So I have to learn how to do that. But Hrishikesha, correct? But if you open these words up more, Hrishika means senses, like seeing, hearing. And Isha we know means the controller, the Lord. So Hrishikesha is the Lord of the senses, or Hrishikesha is the life behind the senses. So there's one life, and then you have all of these conditionings or these labels, which are the senses. Seeing, hearing, tasting, etc. Putting this differently, we have our hardware, which is different for all of us. We have our software, which is also different for all of us. And behind the software is electricity, which is not different for all of us. He continues in the next line. What are these conditionings? What are these labels? Jati. Jati means species. Varna means color. Ashrama means position. Adi means etc., etc. So species, color, position, and much more. What other labels do we assign to ourselves? Income, gender, height, nationality, ethnicity, creed. You just keep going on. Sexuality, voter, what kind of voter you are. See how we keep on putting this adi is one of the most significant terms in this quarter. And let me continue. Atmani aropitaha. And Toya goes to the next quarter, but where are all of these conditionings being put on? Atman. Now in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan Krishna defines Atman quite differently. He says the Atman could be the body. He goes more deeply, he says the Atman could be the mind. More deeply, the Atman could be the ego. But most deep, that which is closest, Atman is the spirit. When you look at people's bodies, there's so much separation. You go to the mind, we don't think that differently, isn't it? I tell you, don't think of the fact that Southwest is flying to Hawaii. What are you thinking about? That you don't have access to Southwest in a certain city. When you go to the ego's only function is to identify. It doesn't matter what separation we take up. When we go to the spirit, when we go to the most real self, then there is no difference. Leave alone separation. A few years ago, I was invited to speak at a culture conference, a diversity conference in Pittsburgh at an all-girls school. So they have all of these girls that are gathered in this auditorium, and some of the other Pittsburgh schools were invited, the teachers, administrators, parents. And there's some funny things that happened there, but let me get to the point. Is when I began speaking, I asked everyone, how many of you are 6 feet tall? So few people had their hands up. Next question was, how many of you are in high school? Way more people had their hands up. How many of you are from Pittsburgh? Everyone had their hand up other than me. And then I said, how many of you are human? So then my hand went up also. So 6 feet tall is very physical, correct? Going to a human, it's not just one's biology, but it's even the way one thinks, being humane. The way we live, are we focusing on separation or are we focusing on unity? We tend to focus on that separation, and we limit ourselves and we limit others. So Acharya Shankara says, how is this like? Toyam. Toyam is water. Rasa. Like assigning flavor to water. Varna. Assigning color to water, adi, etc. Bedavat. These differences of taste and color on water. Does water have a taste? Yes, no? If you add Crystal Light, it does. But really, water doesn't have a taste. Other than when you're so thirsty. Then water is very sweet. And when you go to a city or a home where they add softener to the water, then it doesn't taste, it doesn't taste very good. But generally, water doesn't have a taste. Does water have a color? Is water blue? When Vyasa sees water for the first time, or he sees a lake or an ocean, he's going to say, look, the water is blue. Then I'm going to quote Atma Bodha to him. I'm going to chant Shloka 11 to him. Don't you know anything, Vyasa? You wrote this. No, it is blue to him. But when you look more carefully, it's clear. This is such a wonderful example because we experience water all the time. We experience the blueness of water all the time. But water doesn't have any taste, doesn't have any color. The example that Pujya Swami Chinmayananda uses, he says that the electricity in this room is one, but the electricity is making the projector function differently and the 110 light bulb differently and the computer differently and the heat differently, but it's just electricity. Here is your sutra for Shloka 11. Projections cannot harm. Projections cannot harm. When you're dreaming and you fall out of a tree, when you wake up, presuming that you haven't fallen out of your bed, can you get harmed from landing in the grass in your dream? When that blueness is on that water, does the water get harmed? So in the same way, if you could take this at a relative level, the projections we put on others or the projections people put on us, they can only harm the ego, which is also a projection, but they cannot harm the self. And that's why the reference point we should use in life is not, and when I was at the Devi retreat, I was telling them, many times when I go to people's homes and I ask, so what are you up to? The response is, I'm just a housewife. Their response, not mine. And it's so fascinating that that word just is used. Whenever you use the word just, we tend to belittle that. I'm just eating. I'm just walking. There's no emphasis, no enthusiasm behind that. And then they'll go on to say, I'm this person's wife, or I'm this person's sister, or I'm this person's daughter. But a real Devi is her own reference point. Being a sister or mother, you don't have to be married. You don't have to be a daughter or have a daughter to be a Devi. That's the self. So for all of us, all of the reference points we have, friend, neighbor, citizen, a student, sevaka, teacher, student, again, whatever it is, use the self as the center and all else are reference points, not the other way around. Okay? Projections cannot harm.